Experience!
I'm Pat Mayo with your quick fantasy football update for October 4th. It's a Friday, so obviously injury reports later on today are going to be the most telling, and I'll be back on Saturday with the extensive rankings update and full injury report once we get all the solidified news. But here's what you need to know. 36-30, Atlanta beats Tampa Bay. In overtime, Kadarius Hodge scores the game-winning touchdown. After Drake London leaves the game on the play before with a ribs injury, Hodge fills in, he scores the touchdown. Everything is good in Atlanta land, and everything's going to be okay with Drake London as well, unless he's really pain intolerant and was hiding a broken rib after the game, but he seemed fine. Talking to the media, just had to come out for that one play. He had missed earlier in the game. I believe it was 13 snaps in the second quarter with a concussion symptom, but he was cleared to come back in that as well. Tough guy, that Drake London. Great fantasy game too. He and Darnell Mooney on the Atlanta side of the ball. Tampa Bay probably should have won this game if Bucky Irving doesn't fumble. Then they win. If Levante David just swats down the interception and doesn't catch it, the Bucs are firmly in field goal range, and then they win that way as well. You could also say if Darnell Mooney just doesn't drop that ball, maybe Atlanta wins quite handily after the Irving fumble. So there's a lot of blame to go around in this. I just really, as someone who was holding the spread for Tampa Bay, that if they just kick the field goal, even if Atlanta scores a touchdown, it doesn't matter. They still cover the 2.5 at that point. But hey, it doesn't always work out the way that you want. Tampa Bay had a decisive lack of fantasy points despite scoring 30 actual points in the game. Evans had the 2 touchdowns, so obviously he was fine. Godwin was 6 for 64. He's fine. It's a lesser game than what you'd want. Otten as a fill-in at tight end was fine, but all of the running backs in this game on both sides of the ball were awful. Awful. Baker had almost as many fantasy points with his legs as all of the other running backs in this game. So what we saw was a distinct lack of plays in favor of Atlanta, 87-53. Hence why Kirk throws for over 500 yards and every receiver on Atlanta ends up going bananas in terms of fantasy points. But Bijan played 58 snaps to Algier's 31, but it was only 12-6 in terms of carries on the ground. Algier was out there on the final drive of the game and in overtime. No idea where Bijan was. He did come into the game limited with a hamstring injury, but that's still quite concerning what we talked about on yesterday's show and why he was down a little bit more in the rankings. In fact, he probably should have been down a whole lot more in the rankings based on the production that he had. Mooney and McLeod were out there for 99% of the snaps. They continue to be excellent fantasy plays. Depending on the size of the league you're in, Mooney's basically a must start every week. He's averaging 17 fantasy points per game over 4 games in PPR. McLeod, if he's going to be playing that many snaps, you have to consider him, especially if something happens to Mooney. He'll be out there even more. Kyle Pitts finally did something. Wasn't that glorious for anyone who didn't start Kyle Pitts? Because there's no reason to be starting him. If you own Kyle Pitts, and he did this, don't get sucked in. Trade him right now following a good game. But at least there's hope for Mark Andrews. If Kyle Pitts can have a good game, maybe Andrews can squeeze one out in week number 4 as well. Finally, we won the underdog play from Thursday, so that's always a nice bonus up into the account. As I mentioned before, if you had used code Mayo, you could use those 2 picks and add the Kirk Cousins free square if you were brand new to Underdog. So hopefully you won 6 times your money. We'll have more plays on Saturday's show on the PME feed. So use code Mayo at Underdog right now and go sign up, okay? The news of the day that you need to know: Brian Robinson missed his 2nd straight day of practice with a knee injury. It's looking more and more unlikely like he's going to play, but we'll give him Friday to see if he can get on the field. If not, Ekeler, who returned to full practice, would move from running back number 33 to running back number 19 behind Trey Sermon. Kenneth Walker went from full to limited in practice with his oblique injury. DK Metcalf went from full to limited with his hand injury. I'm not concerned about either one of them unless they miss Friday practice. Walker remains running back number 6 for the week. Zach Charbonnet remains running back number 33. Wide receivers, Diontae Johnson was back at practice. He's wide receiver number 6 for the week. Malik Nabers is out again. I took him out of the rankings, which also affected the rest of the offense. Wendell moves down from 19 to 27. Daniel Jones moves from quarterback number 12 to quarterback number 19 for the week. That offense runs through Nabers. Without him, everything's going to fall apart. Rashee Rice was officially moved to injured reserve for the Chiefs as well. They go on bye week in week number 6, in case you were wondering. Jonathan Taylor didn't practice again. He's not in the rankings. He's probably not going to play. Trey Sermon, running back number 18, with a mighty 31 yards total through 4 games with the Colts this season. Jacksonville is the 32nd ranked defense in the league right now, so it's a great matchup. And hell, we've been playing Cam Akers the past 2 weeks, so Might as well give Trey Sermon a shot. Might have to give Trey or Cam Akers another shot as well, because Mixon still hasn't returned to practice. Maybe on Friday we get something. They keep calling him day-to-day, but dude's not practicing, so if he misses Friday, he's not playing. So watch out for Cam Akers. If he was dropped, you might want to go spec pick him up right now in case the worst-case scenario happens with Mixon. Dameon Pierce still has not practiced for the Texans either. Devin Singletary not practicing for the Giants. He keeps insisting he's going to play, but if he doesn't practice Friday, he's not playing. So Tyrone Tracy would step in. In week 4, he averaged 0.5 yards per carry, but he did have a catch for 19 yards. Eric Gray would back him up. It's probably a decent situation for Tracy, but it's not like he would get inflated as high as Sermon would or Akers would in weeks past, just because it's going to be a catch-up offense this entire time. And frankly, it's probably not going to be a very good offense against the Seahawks, as 6.5-point dogs in week number 4. Zamir White once again didn't practice with the groin injury. He left Wednesday practice with the groin, didn't practice on Thursday. I've removed him from the rankings. I don't expect him to practice on Friday, so I moved Madison up to running back number 30 this week, and Amir Abdullah might actually play passing downs, which would actually hurt the value of Amir Abdullah in a weird way, but it's a tough defense. They're going against the Broncos. The goal line carries will go to Abdullah if there is any, but the offense looked, although they won last week against Cleveland, the offense didn't look good without Devontae Adams, who we're not expecting to see again. Finally, tight ends, Trey McBride, full practice, tight end number 4 for the week. Engram, second day of limited practice. He's back in the rankings. He's tight end number 6 for the week. Kittle didn't practice, but he was seen working on the side. They expect him to play. He's tight end number 2 for the week. And David Njoku had a planned day off, is expected to practice on Friday. He's back in the rankings, albeit a little bit lower. Tight end number 13 for the week. And Taysom Hill is out of the ranks as he continues not to practice with fractured ribs. Somehow he'll be like toughing it out and playing with fractured ribs, but I would not expect him to play in week number 5 on Monday Night Football. But Saturday will be the key day for him. The last thing to note, again, with the Raiders, Davante Adams is going to miss time, and it does appear like Michael Mayer is going to end up missing this week's game as well with a personal matter. Not sure what that was. He missed last week's game, and because he missed last week's game and did Adams, we have a bit of a blueprint with what's going on with the Raiders offense. So you have your normal guys you would expect to play. You had Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker play the vast majority of snaps, along with Brock Bowers. But after that, DJ Turner played 25 of the 59 snaps as the third receiver. But the really interesting thing was Harrison Bryant ended up playing 45 of 59 snaps behind and on the same field at the same time as Brock Bowers. They went heavy 2 tight end sets. So Harrison Bryant's probably going to be on the field again for a ton against the Broncos. He only got 2 targets in that game, but these are some of my favorite opportunities to pick off when it comes to prop plays, underdog pick'em, first touchdown, anytime touchdown. If those are markets that you want to play in, because his line is going to be set at like 4.5 yards. He got 2 targets last week. He'll probably get 2 or 3 this week, and they're underdogs this week, which they were not last week against Cleveland. So presumably, maybe a little bit more passing, and it's unlikely Surtain goes after Harrison Bryant to lock him down. In fact, it's probably more likely that he tries to shut down Brock Bowers than anyone else in this offense. So if you can find a very low Harrison Bryant over-under in terms of the yardage, we'll see when Underdog releases its pick'em total, which I'll go over on Saturday's show, that you might want to go the over on that one. You can use code Mayo at Underdog right now and go get your sign up. All right, and deposit bonus of up to $1,000. All the ranks updated down in the description right now if you want the cheat sheet. And I'll see you on Saturday.
Mayo experience! Experience!